Assalamu alaikum. Where is Zahir and Wahabi?
Yeah.
Another Zahir? Ah, Zahir's here. Assalamu alaikum, Zahir. How are you?
So I'm not sure what you do.
I haven't seen you for a few days. Are you okay?
I've been in the office all the time.
Tristan, have you seen him in the office the past few days? You verified that, right? So I have a question for you. Where were you on December 14th, Thursday at 7 p.m.? Here, take the mic.
I cannot remember, but probably I was at home with the kids.
Shall I believe him, Tristan? We need someone to verify, right? I don't know, my gut feel says you weren't home with the kids. So let's try again. This past Thursday, December 14th, 7 p.m., not a.m., p.m. Where were you, Zahid?
Say the truth.
Okay, I was in Opera House.
So tell us, Zahid, what did you watch at the Opera House?
I think I watched one of the Italian musicians, and his name is Pavarotti, and I think he passed away almost 10 years ago.
Okay, all right. I'm glad you told the truth because I saw you there. What did you think of the performance?
Was he alone?
I'll answer that later.
Yeah, I don't need your answer here. Actually, it was a very good performance. And it was an excellent entertainment for those who were there. I normally enjoy good music, and it was one of those best music. And I do go there on a regular basis, and every time I go there, I enjoy myself. So it was an excellent, and I enjoy that environment, the beautiful design and so on. It's really something we just take you away and just make you enjoy yourself. I enjoy it.
Is there anything specific that you enjoyed about the performance as well, other than the environment?
The singers, there were few young ones, and I think they did very, very well, seriously. They were very young, but they were performing very well, and that was the base of the show. I did not see you actually.
In the balcony.
That's okay, but I saw you. Okay, so interesting. Just curious, anyone else here who was at the performance, not necessarily on December 14th, but they ran for a couple of days, just by a show of hands, if you did go to watch that performance? No, any one of those, Mahmoud, you were there? Okay, excellent. So can you keep your hand up if you don't mind? Thank you. Okay, so quite a few. Okay. Keep your hands up, please. No, it's okay, it's all right. Keep your hands up. Now, I'm just curious if there's anyone else in the audience who's ever attended an orchestra performance of any sort. Put your hands up. Ah, okay, quite a few of you. Here? Okay, so excellent. Thank you. So, I just wanted to give you my very humble feedback about my view of that particular performance. Like Zahir, although he didn't admit initially that he was there, I also enjoyed it very much. And there are a couple of things that I enjoyed. I'm convinced that there was more than one conductor that evening. Although my son thinks I'm totally insane, but I could have sworn that there was at least 2 conductors that evening. And what's interesting is that the second to last conductor had a particular captivating impact on me. And I just want to give you my reflection for the 5 reasons of why he really captivated my attention. And I'll try to keep it very simple, just in my layman terms, because I'm not really a musician, and nor do I understand too much about the orchestra, nor the opera. So in very layman terms, one of the first things that really captured my attention was how this particular conductor was so fluid in his movement. It almost seemed like there was no disconnect between him and that orchestra. It was seamless, it was effortless, it was completely fluid. It was as though he was one with his orchestra. And what really struck me as well was that the conductor really seemed to be enjoying himself. And as a result, his orchestra, and as they were playing, they really seemed to be enjoying themselves too. And as a result, for me sitting in the audience, I really had a ball just enjoying that entire performance and taking it in. So that was my first reflection. My second reflection was that I was absolutely convinced that that conductor, no doubtedly or undoubtedly, had a vision. I had no doubt in my mind that he most definitely had a roadmap for each and every one of the musicians within his orchestra. That was clear. And he also had a vision for himself. I have no doubt in my mind that that conductor knew exactly how each musical piece was supposed to sound, but more importantly, I actually think that he also had a very clear vision about how he wanted each and every musical piece that was played that evening to feel. The emotional aspect, very interesting. That was my second reflection. My third reflection that evening was that there was undoubtedly very, very clear roles and responsibilities amongst that orchestra. Each musical player obviously had an instrument which probably already dictated their role and responsibility. But just by observing them, it was clear that they all knew exactly what they were expected to do. And looking at the conductor himself, who I'm just assuming is also a musician, there was not one point within that entire performance that he actually went to play an instrument, but rather he stood in the middle of the entire orchestra and was more focused around aligning his entire orchestra and musical performance. He didn't go to play any particular instrument. That was my third observation. My fourth observation, interestingly enough, was around coaching. What I saw that evening was coaching on real time. He was giving instantaneous feedback whilst trying to draw the best performance from each and every player within that orchestra. That was very clear. And the instantaneous feedback was also obvious because sitting in the back, you don't really see him. But when he turns to the edge of this stage and the edge of this side of the stage, you kind of see his facial expressions. And they're immediate, And they're very profound in a way that I'm sure just one look at him, you know exactly what he's asking you to do, what feedback is being given. So instantaneous feedback. The other thing I noticed around the coaching front was that he seemed to be continually redirecting. I mean continually redirecting. It must have been absolutely exhausting for that conductor. But it was clear when he was instructing them, you know, to play faster, to play slower, to play louder, to play softer. But he did it so seamlessly. It was so beautiful to watch. The last reflection that I had of that evening was that he gave his back to us in the audience. So it really wasn't about him at all. It was the orchestra that faced the audience. The conductor gave us his back. But to the rest of the orchestra, he stood on a podium, and I have no doubt that even the last person on stage could see him, and could see him very, very clearly, and could see every cue and react to every cue. In addition to them looking at that conductor, I noticed that the musical players were also looking at each other, again, for instantaneous feedback. That conductor, as he was standing on his podium, and most of you have been at an orchestra, so you've seen this, was waving his hands like he was insane. But he didn't care about how he appeared to look. Insanity is relative anyway, right? What he was focused on was when his orchestra would start playing, when they would stop, and the control of the tempo or speed in between. And he did it in such an exquisite way that what was delivered out of all of that significant alignment was nothing less than an exceptional musical piece. So, my ultimate reflection from these 5 points is that, to me, team leadership is about skills, a mindset, attitude and behaviors that in us as leaders, we have to continually refine. It's a continual evolutionary process for us as leaders. And the reason why it has to be a continual refinement process is because circumstances around us change. Companies go through various journeys. One day they're in a crisis, and next day they're in an evolutionary stage. Another day they're downsizing. The demographics within an organization also change. I've noticed over the past maybe 2 years that there has been an increase in the number of the younger generation being injected, particularly within the finance directorate, which also requires a different leadership style. So, I'm standing here before you, telling you, each and every one of you, that having looked at the people survey results, our people, our staff, you, have given us a very powerful feedback. And what you're saying to us, the leadership team, is that team leadership is not there yet. We're not there yet. Reflecting on the people's survey scores, the lowest score that we had actually had to do with secondees. The second lowest score that we had to do with rewards and benefits. This is something that I, Haifa, your finance director, cannot tackle in isolation. It's something that really I need to work with PDO Corporate to see what we can do from a corporate perspective. But team leadership is something that collectively each and every one of us can do something about. We scored 69% for 2017, it was 2016, published in 2017 on team leadership, 69%. PDO, as a company, the average that PDO has scored is 73%. It's neither here nor there, to be honest. The top quartile benchmark for team leadership is 85%. 69% FD, 73% PDO, 85% top quartile benchmark. So the message has come across, it's clear, and later on this afternoon, some of my leadership teams who have been impacted by this feedback will talk about how we're going to be addressing this in 2018 in their forward plans. There is one more thing I'd like to say before I hand over to Fatma. And that is, I truly thank you. I thank each and every one of you. And you know what? I am so proud standing here before you today. I am proud because 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, last year, I could not have stood here and thanked you for your open and honest feedback. And do you know why? Because the majority of the people in this room did not feel free to speak their minds. So I'd like to end on a high note, and that is our D&I score. I feel so proud. Our target for D&I for 2017 was 75%. We managed to get 80%, so 5% above our target. The score for PDO is also 80%, so for the first time in the history of our directorate, we're now at par with PDO. Top quartile benchmark for D&I is at 85%. So again, we're not there yet, but I don't want to discount the fact that we have made significant strides thanks to your input and drive. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that we will have a segment later on D&I. I wanted to thank the FD cast that participated very recently on the You Are Not Alone video. Very, very powerful video that's sent across a very difficult message. It was very well received. I know I personally wrote a note to each and every one of the cast members. I know Raul Restucci, our managing director, sent a personal note to each and every one of these individuals who took the time to act in a very professional way, but send a very, very strong message. The first highest score, by the way, in our People's Survey results was reputation, but I'll leave Fatma to talk more about that. So without further ado, thank you very much. Keep up the great work, and please keep up the honesty, transparency, and feedback.